Jerusalem was troubled, Herod specifically, because before he was appointed king of Judea, he was a pretty good soldier. Now there was a reason Herod and all Jerusalem, not just Herod, not just his entourage, but the citizenry was very, very upset, very troubled. Why? Because these men knew about a king, and he was the king. And they had said, where is he that is born, a newborn, King of the Jews? We've come to worship him. Oh, we'll give honor to you as the appointed magistrate, but we've come to worship this king. Where is he? Of course, he inquired of the scribes, and they weren't that interested, but they were able to look it up. It was Bethlehem, and they headed away. But why was he so disturbed? Before he was appointed king of Judea by Caesar Augustus, he was a military commander. He had led an unsuccessful attempt to conquer the eastern area in Syria, because Syria was a buffer zone between the mighty Roman Empire, which was the central empire that Scripture is fulfilled in, and the mightier Scythian Empire. Most people are not aware, but there was a vast empire with Syria as a buffer zone, a vast empire that stretched all the way to India, covered Mesopotamia, covered Saudi Arabia, covered a portion of China. It was the Scythian Empire. In fact, Augustus Caesar tried to conquer portions of it. They were mightier than the Roman legions. He was able to appease them and maintain peace. But here we have individuals from that empire, not on camels as we normally see on the They didn't ride on camels. They rode on Arabian steeds that were powerful horses. But they traveled with bodyguards, with entourages. I'm not saying it was hundreds, but we're going to find, as Dr. Henry Morris, I respected him and respect his work tremendously. At the end of the lecture today, we'll get his specific words describing how we know much about these Scythian magistrates, these magi from Persia, but it enveloped a vast array of peoples. So Jerusalem was troubled because here are individuals coming, maybe 15, 18, maybe 20 of them, in an entourage of strength. They're not afraid to go right to the king. In fact, they requested to go right to the king. If they didn't have credentials as magi representing foreign governments, they could not have had an audience. You just walk up to, the king himself, and particularly Herod. You don't just say, I want to see the king. No way, but they got in to see him specifically. But their very presence troubled them. Now, when they got there, Jesus was not the infant. He was a young child. I recommend that you go on the internet, buy a book by the late Dr. Ernest Martin called The Star That Astounded the World. One of the best Christmas presents I've ever received in a lifetime has been that book at Christmas time by David Bassett. Thank you, David. Insights in that book are absolutely astounding. I don't have time to give any of those stipulations, but I recommend you get The Star That Astounded the World by Ernest Martin. He describes the significance of all of this. Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. Now, they brought 3 gifts. When they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts. Gifts, plural. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Gold is symbolic of deity. They recognized that from the original Magi, probably or possibly the founder of the Magi in Persia, an hireling prophet named Balaam, who very reluctantly gave the prophecy. And this, when God started dealing with you about the ministry, were you reluctant? Not only that, sometimes we're absolutely rebellious. Like a fellow in the Bible named Jonah. I mean, he went so far as to get on a ship and go the opposite direction, probably 1,300 miles away, to run from the presence of the Lord. He wasn't going to preach, and especially to those people. You know, it's not just the matter of preaching. Gold. So not only did they know of the prophecy of Balaam, the hireling prophet, the reluctant prophet, but then Daniel spent his ministry in their midst. And Daniel spoke of the Ancient of Days that would come, one who wasn't numbered by days of this life, whose goings forth have been from old, from everlasting. So those men, have you ever pondered this? They deliberately selected gold. They recognized to some degree that king they were going to worship, not simply to obeisance and honor, but they were going to worship him as absolute deity. So they brought gold. And they brought frankincense. Frankincense is an aloe that, when opened, pervades the room with fragrance. You know, when Jesus walked our streets, healed the sick, raised the dead, when he talked, there was a group that went to criticize him, like the local press, to criticize him and bring back an evil report. And they went back and they said, "Where's your report?" And they said, "Well, we don't have an evil report. No man spake as this man spake ever." That's Jesus. So the fragrance of his life was anticipated, so they brought frankincense, but they brought myrrh. Myrrh is an aloe that, when crushed, gives off a pungent smell. When tasted, is bitter. Remember Simeon, when they went to dedicate Jesus at his circumcision a little later? And it was before the wise men came, but when they went to dedicate Jesus, Simeon wanted to hold this little babe. He wanted to live long enough to see him. And while he gave the ecstasy that the entire world would be changed by this man, then he looked at Mary straight in the eyes and said, "An arrow shall pierce thine own heart." The bitter life, Calvary, the loss, death, the criticism, all of that is anticipated by the myrrh.